Hello and welcome once again to Versus. Today we are talking about education. We're talking about education at a time when we have an annual status of education report that has been released by a very credible organization called ASER with Pratham. It is a report that comes out every year. It kind of tells us the dismal situation of education in India. But this time we are going to be talking a little bit about how once again, we have a report at a time when elections are around the corner and the biggest issue that everyone's talking about is jobs. So, does this report once again indicate to us that the crisis of jobs can be linked to education? And there is an argument there. So let's just get started with our panel. Of course, we'll talk about what this report releases, the good points, the bad points. There is a lot of good news, so it's not just bad, that I will tell you. On my left, to start with, we have Ghanshyam Tiwari. He needs no introduction, but I'll introduce something interesting about him, which is that I didn't know he had a startup in education, which is why he's here. And also, we have Wilma Wadhwa, who's the head of ASER. Thank you so much for joining us. Madhav Chavan, the co-founder of Pratham, with us. Aditya Natraj, who has an organization called Kaivalya Foundation, and he's been basically making sure that there are leaders who are developed, who can contribute to education in the government. And also we have Avni Kapoor, who is the Director of Accountability Initiative in the Center for Policy. Thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. The first question should not go to a politician, so it's not going to go. Let's just first understand from you what are the good points of this report that tell us that there is some improvement in schooling education from 5 to 16, the age group that we've talked about.
Well, the big story this year is that the little signs that we had seen in 2014 and 16 seem to be sustained this year. So in 2014 and 16, we saw slight improvements in learning levels of Standard 3. This year, that is sustained, and we're also seeing movement in Standard 5, and this is in both reading and math. But the really important thing and the really good news here is that this increase is being driven by government schools.
Okay. The one question that comes to my mind is when we talk about a marginal increase, is it really what you were hoping for, or that marginal increase is just marginal? It's not really good news.
Well, you know, see, it is when you look at the All India numbers, it looks like a really small increase. Okay. But the All India number is very difficult to move. We are a very large and a very diverse country. And so that little increase actually hides a lot of movement behind it, right? So this year, in fact, we've seen states like UP where we've seen jumps of 10 percentage points in. So there are large jumps. There are also states where you've seen drops in learning levels. Okay. So
the good news of 2.4% increase in the students who can read a class 2 text from class 5. Students from class 5 who can read a class 2 text. There's an increase of 2.4%. That's really good news. Can you give us some perspective on how good that news is?
Well, there are two ways of looking at it. Yeah. One is 2.4 percentage points against the 100% is very small.
Yeah.
And as Wilma said, it's a huge country, and so it may look like a really small percentage.
Right.
But the other way to look at it is that for the last 12, 14 years that we've actually measured this, we've actually never seen a climb, except in the very early years when there was a climb in MP and Chhattisgarh, and to some extent in Madhya Pradesh, UP in the early years. But for the last 12 years for sure, the learning levels have been continuously dropping. Okay, always going down, or remaining steady at the most.
Yeah.
This is the first time.
Class 8 children cannot read a class 2 text. That percentage has not increased from 2016 to 2018.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying year on year, if you were to monitor 5th graders, then the percentage of children in 5th grade who can read second, year on year was not increasing. This is the first time that we are actually looking at 2 years before, 4 years before, and we can see that there is a trend now. And that is a useful thing to latch on to and say, if there are people who are optimists, then they would want to say, okay, there is some reason for optimism.
Okay.
In that sense, yes, something has changed, and it's a useful.
All right. We had a discussion while you were on the panel in the event, and I asked you a question on politics and the fact that you don't believe when people say that the politicians want India to remain uneducated so that they can easily influence the vote. You believe that's not true. But is there still a problem of political willpower in the Modi government at a time like this when they're talking about jobs and they've created jobs, although the data doesn't necessarily support it?
So we work across 14 states with 7 different political parties. we find that there's no difference between these political parties' commitment to wanting to do something.
Okay.
The problem is not of political will. The problem is not even of administrative will. The principal secretary wants to do something. The problem is of administrative capacity to deliver this. Okay. We have to understand how complex something like education is. It's not a simplistic thing like, okay, when you want to give DBT, you can credit it into the bank account. Education can only change when the child decides that she wants to learn. That last mile delivery of government, if it doesn't involve giving you something, if it actually involves asking you to do something, is a completely different delivery mechanism. And we've not thought through that delivery mechanism.
Can I ask you a question? Successive reports have indicated that there is a problem, and in the education system, children are not learning even though they are graduating. Can you link that with the current job crisis India is facing? Is it evidence?
No, I'm not the right person for this question. I don't know.
I'll come to you.
When you asked the question, are you saying the job crisis is because of poor learning, or are you saying poor learning because there are no jobs? Which way are you looking?
The job crisis is because of poor learning.
I'm not saying, I don't think that is strictly true. The job crisis, if there is one, as people say.
Do you think there is one?
Different ways of looking at it, really.
Okay.
In our total workforce that we have, which is about 50 crores, 15% are salaried people, which is where you call jobs. 15%. So 7.5 crores.
Yeah.
The remainder are a part of the workforce that they don't have salaried jobs. Okay. And now salaried jobs are going to go down because of automation and those kinds of things. So manufacturing is not happening. Okay. The level of skills at which jobs are available are very small. The percentage that reaches it.
So, but do you link the two? Do you link these reports, successive reports, and how they are showing that the education system is what it is?
Can I come in?
Yeah, let him.
So, would you link it to would you link it to jobs or would you link it to livelihoods? I think that's the separation.
I think one second. Sorry, the thing is, I'm saying this because I have to break it down for the people sometimes. I don't want to get into obfuscation. I don't want to get into technicalities. At the end of the day, for a man we meet on the streets who's a voter, when we're asking them who you're going to vote for, they said there are no jobs. They don't know about the difference between what you just said.
So I don't think there are going to be more jobs. Okay. I don't think that's an issue of education.
No,
I think the reality
is these constant reports are indicative of the fact that where we've got is because of the education crisis.
I think the way to look at it is, and perhaps I will agree with Aditya on this, is that if the children that grow up, become young people, if they have more skills, okay, and they have more knowledge, then they will be able to find livelihood.
Okay. You're not answering my question.
No. You are asking the wrong question. The problem with...
Please correct me. Please correct me. What should be the right question?
You heard Manish Sisodia talk about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Yeah. So he is also saying, there are people who are saying that, look, it's not about jobs. Yeah. It is going to be about people finding livelihoods as entrepreneurs or self-employed people. Because largest percentage of working people in India are self-employed.
What is the right question?
No, so the right question is, for example, is the economy hurting because of poor learning?
Would you be able to answer that yourself?
I think the answer is yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the overall skill level, overall knowledge level that is required in high percentages for an economy that is to really rev up, and not at 7 and 8%, but we're talking 10 and 12%, then you really need more educated people. Okay, it is well known that even in higher education, kids who are going to higher education are not well educated.
Yes, that's the point you make.
So if you don't have a base that is wide and deep, in terms of learning and education, then it doesn't translate into more people learning at a higher level.
Okay. Can you repeat your question again? What was it? So
what was it?
I'm just kidding. Let me make it for you. You can answer my incorrect and his correct question.
From the report itself, right? For example, the report says age 14 to 16.
Yeah.
50% of children in rural India can do division. 50% cannot.
Yeah.
Right? Among girls, this is 44%. Among male, it is 50%. Yeah. Right? The report says that 13% of our girls are out of school. Now, these are, in terms of percentage, they appear small. But think about it. This is a very, very big numbers. India, at any age group, has nearly 2 crore to 2 crore 20 lakh kids, 80 lakh more kids than China. And if we are saying 10%, 10% of that is 2 crores. 50% of children in 14 to 18 not able to, or 14 to 16 not able to do division is a substantial number. That will have a immediate impact, cascading impact.
Is he right?
These people are not going to create.
Right. Okay, everyone is okay with that. Okay.
These people are not going to take your mudra loan and create enterprises.
Okay.
These people are not going to enter the formal economy. Okay. Somebody has to take this question head on. The government, the ecosystem must create jobs. Saying that everybody can be an entrepreneur is like giving an American dream to every Indian poor rural child who does not know division, can barely read, and has no economic resources.
This is why we have a politician on the panel. All right, Avni, do you agree with what he said?
Yes, I think we all agree with him in the sense that I firstly agree with what Madhav said, is that you asked a question about is learning critical, and yes, it's critical, and it's not just linked to jobs. I think you're narrowing the definition if you're thinking only in the terms of jobs. It's linked to health, it's linked to sanitation,
No.
it's linked
right
to...
now, the thing is, on a 20-minute show, we can only address one question. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about other aspects. So that's why I'm asking you about that. So I would really appreciate it if we talk about that. Sorry.
Productive adults. Yeah. That's what it is. Now, you can...
But the frustration of civil society, young population of India, 60% of which is between the age of 18 and 40.
One second. The frustration of that young child. Think about that. RTE came into effect in 2010.
Yeah.
We've had
Right to education.
Right to education came into effect in 2010. Yeah. We have the first post-RTE cohort now, which has been guaranteed elementary education. These kids, 8 years of schooling, these kids have gone through 8 years of schooling, right? More and more kids are finishing grade 8. And at the end of it, there is this sense of betrayal because the education system does not give them any skills to be productively employed. Right, okay, that is the sense of betrayal.
So for every one of us, we grew up thinking education is our ladder to upward mobility. Yeah. Now, as a panel, we are saying education system is not imparting skills. As a panel, as a report, we are saying, I'm not interested in 1%, 2 pages engaged. Okay. As a report, we are saying that a bulk of this country, a large proportion of this country is getting inefficient education. Inefficient education, plus it is not imparting skills. So obviously it will lead to crisis in jobs. Okay. And these are not entrepreneurs. These are people who need more support to be able to find a dignified life. Final point is, education should give you the confidence to face the world as an adult. If that does not happen, all these things will not materialize.
Okay. I think I'm going to let you counter that, but I have a question for you. In whatever little improvement this report indicates in the education system, would you be able to make an analogy that it is the Modi government's influence in 4 years that has impacted education to some extent in at least some states in some way?
No, I don't know whether the government has actually done anything. First of all, union government, whether it has done something is the first question. Yes. And as Aditya was saying, party after party, most of it is actually state governments. And when you look at state governments, I don't see a difference between political parties at all. Okay, so the thing that we need to do, or that needed to be done to improve education, you can see that changes happening in different states.
All right, okay.
They're not necessarily political parties.
Okay. You were saying what you were saying, so you can continue saying what you were saying, but I have a question for you. Why is it that in this entire event, and today we are having another event of the HRD ministry, by the way, happening in the same building. But it seems like when you have this report, which is credible for the last 10 years, 8 years or so, 2005 onwards, 13 years, the central government is not taking from this report and implementing based on what this report is saying. But you have the Delhi government whose education system seems to have taken from this report and produced results accordingly.
So I don't fully agree with you there. I think that even those who criticize the ASER methodology, the fact of the matter is 13 years ago there was no alternative. And so whether you liked the ASER methodology, didn't like the methodology, it was the only source of learning level data. Okay. Suddenly now, whether it's to counter ASER, but suddenly now you have so many other sources. So I think that's one definite great thing that ASER has done is to
make people come up with their own reports. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
The second thing that I think that
I would have to say this is a low level of comparison and saying that there's an improvement. The question is why is the government not taking from this report?
But I'm saying that they are because are they are.
Are they? Why was there nobody from the central government here today? For example?
No, they don't come out and say this, and this has been going on irrespective of parties. Okay. In UPA 1 and 2, same thing, and now the same thing. Okay. Union government somehow doesn't want to acknowledge.
Why?
Okay, I have no idea. But
That's my point. That's exactly my point.
I can tell you. I can tell you that the.
Sorry, I will ask them. But it's not easy to get them on NDTV as you know.
You go back. There's a record. See, this government is a different thing. During UPA time, the first time to 2005, when this was ASER was done, it was released by Montek Ahluwalia, who was Deputy Chairman Planning Commission. And in all Planning Commission reports, ASER was mentioned, but not the MHRD.
And in Parliament as well.
Yeah, in the Parliament as well. There's a lot of things going on.
The Vice President has released it.
I believe 80 times the ASER report has been mentioned, 80 plus times in Parliament.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you make of this? Why is it that the union government is not taking the report
I don't know, but
as
point
effectively
is
and seriously?
final
No.
delivery has
I
to-
don't know is not a good enough
Delivery
answer for
is
me.
happening. I'll tell you
I will come to you. I know your answer. I'm not coming to you.
Question is the wrong question.
Yeah,
Are states
Again,
taking
wrong question. I'm sorry, guys. One sec. Let's make one thing very clear. My questions cannot be wrong or right. They're questions that need to be answered. Okay, full stop.
States are responsible for delivery. Are states taking cognizance of the
So
report?
why does the Prime Minister keep talking about how much of a difference he's made in education and jobs then? If the states are responsible, give the credit to the states.
Let me give you an example. UP government, for example,
Can take credit for a number of things.
UP government has taken cognizance of this report. UP government is taking the policy recommendations from this report, which is saying that you should teach at the right level rather than teach to a syllabus.
So you're saying there's been an improvement in UP?
Absolutely, and they've done it first in 10 districts. They're now scaling it up across 80
From
districts.
UP, we have the Samajwadi Party.
Well, if the governments don't show up, it's an admission of guilt. And then they use it is saying that we do not have an equal criteria, but we will use it, but will not show up.
Okay.
It is in some way
Your point made.
taking gains of something without taking accountability. This is a great report.
Okay.
It tells for 13 years a picture of story in a very picture of India in a very consistent manner.
Okay, got it.
You can criticize it in your own way, but you have to have more such pictures to be able to give a
And we
comprehensive
open to the
story.
idea of actually taking from these reports. We're going to take a short break. As you see, this is why the show is called Versus. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We're talking about a new education report which links to the crisis that India is facing or not, depending on who you talk to, in an election year. And we're asking the question to our very esteemed panelists, a lot of them who have contributed to the report, and some who are politicians, and some who are looking at it objectively. We're asking the one question: why is it that this report is not something parents, children, young people, voters in general, not make this a plank on which they decide who to vote for? So,
This report, as some people
Education,
pointed
yeah,
out,
yeah.
it has not reached every household.
Yeah.
They are not aware कि ऐसा है.
but they know what the problem in their household is, how much their child is learning.
They don't. Actually, that's the fun part, that the people are not aware कि स्कूल में जाके भी मेरा बच्चा नहीं पढ़ पा रहा है.
Okay.
I think that is something that a lot of people have to realize. That's the first part. But to make something an election issue, there has to be a general environment of that. Right now, I think election issues are immediate issues. कि मुझे अभी नौकरी दो, या मुझे अभी पानी चाहिए, सड़क चाहिए, बिजली चाहिए, इस पर होता है. एजुकेशन में ऐसा है कि you are going.
क्यों नहीं होता है? दिल्ली में तो government has made it.
Government has made it. It is not as though people demanded that. So if there is an enlightened party that actually wants to bring it up, that's a different thing. And this you will see in the early parts of a period of our post-independence. A lot of people were encouraged to take up education and so on.
Okay.
So वो spirit चला गया.
ठीक है, okay.
Now you are depending on the government to do everything.
Okay, no, I am not, but thanks for that. You as in people, I understand. Okay,
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I also think that in Delhi, one of the reasons that governments make decisions is also to do with money. We've been tracking a lot of funds, and obviously everyone knows that education there's not enough money as that there should be. But in Delhi, what worked in some ways was that you have a deputy chief minister who is also the education minister. There was a nice alignment, and so putting money as well, investment in resources.
Okay.
Also.
Yes, you wanted to say something. Final comment for you.
Well, I believe that good education is the greatest political agenda for any party in a young India. We have 37 crore kids under 14.
I think everyone believes that.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are ways by which Delhi has set an example. We set an example in our own way by distributing laptops to 18 lakh kids.
Yeah.
So each government is figuring out its way to do it.
Although that could be seen as a SOP, but anyway.
Let it be. But it has, if you go and interview those people, it has turned around their lives.
Okay.
So we believe that these reports are powerful. recognition of ground reality, and it is for governments to use these reports to set the agenda in education. People will demand that agenda, provided you are credible leader for that agenda.
Do you see that the slight improvements? For example, only 4.1% girls were out of school between the ages groups of 11 to 14 earlier. I mean, now in 2006 it was 10.3% of girls. So now it's an improvement of almost 6%, which is huge. Percentage points. Sorry. So do you think that will then contribute to a change in how people are going to vote? Because what you're seeing is also a huge shift from the central government and Prime Minister Modi's schemes about trying to get the women to vote. From 2005 this has been happening. So now those same students would be of voting age.
Well, you know, I don't think turnout has ever been an issue in our country.
No, voting for a party based on the improvements that they've seen.
No.
Can I add? You look at Chhattisgarh results.
Yeah.
Which Chhattisgarh education results.
Education
report for last 4 years, Chhattisgarh has been rising, way ahead of Madhya Pradesh also.
But there's been no impact.
But Chhattisgarh election, people ignored that.
So, add once again, one very quick thing. I think it will become an agenda when you give the agenda a credible champion. The way to look at states is that which state or which government has given education, primary or jobs, for example, a credible champion. Modi government certainly has not given a credible champion both for education and employment.
Out here, everyone?
Well, I think there's a decoupling of who you vote for and what you want. This, enough evidence shows. I'm going to vote based on my ideology. I'm already attached to a particular party.
Okay.
Even if I see the other party delivering on something that is valuable for me, I'm going to continue to vote. So I don't think we can link development, improvement to vote.
What can you link with the 2019 elections? Because you are refusing to link anything. Can you link education to the 2019 elections in any way? Because I'm desperate for that, as you can see. Can you link it in any way? Change. Anything?
No, there is enough evidence to show that you don't change your political ideology irrespective of development outcomes. There is
education
evidence.
Outcomes also.
No, broader development outcomes. You can change broader development outcomes. But here I'm voting because I'm a particular caste. Here I'm voting
because I ask you a simple
particular
question?
Religion.
Can I ask you a simple question for the voters? Has there been a change in the political willpower of this government compared to the last government when they talk about education?
Central government?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question again.
This Modi government versus UPA 2, the political will in terms of education, any difference?
Marginal change. Right to education has been going on for some time.
Okay.
Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was.
Right.
BJP and Congress have, by definition, luckily actually in education it's been a forward movement. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was during one government.
Okay.
Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan was different government.
Right
to education
will not be able to vote on this aspect. That's what you're saying. All right, one final comment, one sentence.
Major change. Indian Science Congress has become Magical Science Congress. If you look at what is emanating from it.
All right. Okay. We have, on that wonderful magical note, we're going to leave it there. Thank you to our panelists for being with us and being patient with us. Wonderful report that tells us a lot. Thanks so much. This was Versus. Thanks for joining us.